Welcome to my channel, INTJ Island. Today I'm going to talk about INTJ paths to friendship, finding a friend. I created my last video, 10 things an INTJ friend or lover must have, partly in order to set the stage for this one, which was suggested to me by Joda JK, and I want to thank him for that. How does an INTJ make friends? Or, if you would like to be a friend or date an INTJ, you could reverse engineer what I'm about to say and find your way into an INTJ's inner circle. If the word engineering scares you, however, perhaps you should seek out another personality type. To start with, the fact that you need to think about how to make friends tells you something about yourself as an INTJ. No, not that destructive drivel you have heard all your life, that you are antisocial, shy, and you need to get out more. That is all humbug. No, what it tells you about yourself is that you are not hungry for friendship. What happens when you get hungry? You think about finding something to eat. If you go a while without eating, you get hungrier. The drive increases with time until you are forced to forget about everything else and find some food. If you felt the same way about friends as you do about food, you would not have to think about how to find friends. You would have already found them. There are over 7 billion people on the planet, and there's no lack of candidates for being your friend. You don't need friends in the same desperate way you need food, water, or air. It is a desire that is sticking around in the back of your head. A friend might be cool. I am reminded of a joke that was going around a while back, and it went something like this. An INTJ engineer hears a voice calling to him as he is walking along while deep in thought. He looks and he sees a frog sitting there. It said, "If you kiss me, I'll turn into a beautiful princess." He picks up the frog and he shoves it into his pocket. A little muffled frog voice comes through. "If you kiss me and turn me back into a beautiful princess, I will be yours." The INTJ takes the frog out of his pocket, smiles at it, and then puts it back in. He hears a desperate little voice crying, "If you kiss me and turn me back, I'll do whatever you say." Again, the INTJ takes the frog out, smiles at it, and he puts it back. Finally, the frog asks, "What is the matter? I told you I'm a beautiful princess. I'll stay with you and do whatever you say. What more do you want?" The INTJ says, "Look, I'm an engineer. I don't have time for a girlfriend. But a talking frog? Now that's really cool." The joke's funny because we understand that engineer and how he could actually see things in that way. Obviously, we would kiss the frog and send the princess on her way if we were not interested in anything more than that. Keeping her as a slave frog is pretty disgusting. But the idea behind the joke shows how our priorities and our needs are our own. Returning to the real world, we have a place in our heart for friends, at least one of them. So how do we go about finding one? They are fortunately more common than magic frogs. To begin with, you are not looking for a huge retrofit project. Fixer-uppers are not for you. You want to find a person who is friend material right now. So you create a list of attributes that you require in a friend. I covered a suggested list in my previous video of 10 things I think important in a friend or life's partner. Make up your own list and identify what sort of person would be just right to be your friend. Once you've done that, either mentally or literally on paper, it is time to go on the hunt for your friend. When you have a working model of what you are looking for, it is far easier to track one down. For example, you might find just what you are looking for at the local chess club. There are both introverts and extroverts at the club, and if they are playing chess, they probably have working brains as well. This is a fertile ground you are walking upon. Here you need to step out of your comfort zone for a moment and start up a conversation with someone who might be a good candidate to be your friend. This sounds clinical and analytical, but doggone it, it works. This is the number one test for any approach. If it works, it is good. Now here's John. You ask him a few questions, preferably ones that will draw out information that will tell you if he hits the points on your list. You find that he enjoys reading your favorite author. This is promising. You find out he is coming to the next session, and you agree to be there as well. That isn't much yet, but then during the next session, you bring up a frustrating thing that happened at work dealing with people, and he has a very similar story to tell. You find that you are hitting it off. He suggests that you could meet at the golf course and play a few holes, and you just happen to be pretty good at golf. It is a great way to spend time visiting and sharing thoughts while getting some exercise as well. Or maybe you meet at the art museum because you share a love of art, or you go see an opera, or go fishing. If you have something you can do together that you both will enjoy, it is a good start. One by one, you can check off items on your list, and if he meets what you require, you can work on building a true friendship. It might last you many years if you really have covered your list well. Another possible hunting ground could be a library, where you are browsing the shelves filled with books on your favorite subjects, and instead of ignoring the other browsers as you normally might, you engage one in conversation about this topic. Once again, you work in questions to cover your list of requirements for a friend. You find common ground, or you find showstoppers, but you learn what you need to know in order to make a decision as to whether to proceed or to walk away. No harm done if it doesn't work. You might take a night class at college on some subject that you love. Here you are sitting in a room full of people who are also at least somewhat interested in your topic. This is prime hunting ground for a friend. Don't miss your chance to hunt. I'm sure you can find many areas in your society where people who like the same things you like can be found. It might be as mundane as a grocery store, where you are located in a section of food that is rather outside what most people would enjoy, and there is someone picking up an item of food that you simply love. This is a point of agreement between you. It is a starting point. Hook in the candidate and run through your list as smoothly as you can. This is definitely not like the movies, where they have to tell an entire story in 2 hours. It could take considerable time where you touch bases with the candidate. It may take several sessions of talking to get through the list and to get clear the correct answers to your questions. There is, of course, the serendipity of a casual, unplanned meeting of a future friend or even a soulmate. You have to be ready to grab onto the opportunity when it arises. That means you need to have your list prepared beforehand, as in right now. For example, I met my wife on my ship when I was standing watch. She came on board with a group of girls from a local church. I escorted them to the ship's bridge and then monitored their actions for 15 to 30 minutes, and then they left. She had caught my eye, and I thought she looked stunning, but I didn't know her at all, other than the fact she clearly thought for herself, because she was off to the side studying the electronic devices on the bridge, even though she didn't have a clue what the equipment was used for. A part of her mind was very interested in that, though. I was raving to a shipmate in my electronics division about how pretty that girl was. As it turned out, he was a member of that church. Now what he was thinking was that he was going to pull a bait and switch on me. He would dangle an opportunity for me to meet that beauty, provided I went to a church function. He wanted to turn me into a convert. If he knew then what he later learned, he would not have been so eager, but it worked out perfectly for me. I went to the function, which consisted of 2 parts. The first was a volleyball game, which I enjoyed, and there were a lot of young adults there, including the girl who had so devastatingly caught my eye. She was obviously interested in me as well, because we talked a bit during the pauses in playing volleyball, and then we sat together when they laid the church movie on us that explained a few things about the church doctrine. My shipmate was eager for me to hear every word, but my being an INTJ, he had no idea how closely I was listening to the presentation, and I had questions. I asked my future wife for answers. My shipmate kept trying to shut us up because he thought we were spooning rather than getting the indoctrination message. He was wrong, at least partly, because an INTJ can woo with his intellect at the same time as he learns what is going on around him. I had an exceedingly clear picture of what the movie was saying, and also a glimpse of the inner workings of my future wife's brain as well. I liked what I found there. And she did something to let me know that she was very interested in pursuing this relationship by inviting me to an ice skating party the young adults were having that Friday night. I had to make a car trip and then hurry back by plane in order to make the event, but I did it. And here's where I ran down the rest of my personal list of things I required from a mate. First we ice skated, and she did it like a pro. Meanwhile, I worked my way around the railing, just trying to keep from falling. She pulled me out onto the ice once, and my heart was in my throat because I was moving way too fast for my liking. But I didn't fall. She literally skated circles around me, and then did it backwards. She flew across the ice doing figure eights and generally impressing me greatly. But we finally reached the point where we pulled up to the railing and we had a very long talk. We talked about serious things, what we both believed about the family, a man and his wife, children, right and wrong. This wasn't a fluffy conversation about dandelions. By the end of the evening, I found nothing in this woman to stop me from spending the rest of my life with her. Now came the phase where we found out whether the relationship mechanism could function well overall. We arranged our very first date all alone. I let her choose what we would do, and she knocked my socks off with her choice. She wanted to hike up to the top of Multnomah Falls. I'll put a link in the description below to a webpage I created around Multnomah Falls because it holds such significant meaning to my wife and me. It was September of 1974, 44 years ago, this month, that we made that hike. At the end of that day, I was so in love with this girl that I already knew I was going to marry her. And a few days after that, I popped the question. I never forgot the moment she said yes. She made me wait a day. She is an ESTP, and she relies heavily on that T part. She thought it over. There were things to consider. I was a divorced man with a son. There could be complications. But then, out of the blue, when we hit a stop sign at Medford, Oregon, she said, yes. I was thrilled. I held down the brake, grabbed her in my arms and kissed her, and ever since, I've been living a wonderful life that I could have only dreamed of in the past. As my granddaughter told me the other day, you and Grandma are like in the fairy tales, because you are living happily ever after. Did she ever get it right? Friends are sometimes for a lifetime, and sometimes they come and go. It is usually okay either way. But a feature I have found with most of my friends, if I don't see them for a long time, when we do meet up again, we get right back to where we were pretty quickly. My close friendships are usually intellectually based, and intelligence and rational thought often will pass the test of time, and whatever we had before the long separation is still there. I can think of a number of old friends who I would have little trouble rekindling the friendship with if given the chance. I've had that very happy occurrence come along with some of my family members, especially cousins who shared my childhood. If an INTJ wishes to hunt down a friend or a mate for life, he can do it. It is some work, I will grant you that. You have to be willing to do the upfront work of identifying what you want in a relationship and the one with whom you will be sharing it. Once you have done that, you have to do the additional work of seeking out the natural habitat of such a one as you are searching for, and then taking the perhaps more difficult step of connecting up personally with a candidate one-on-one, and then running your list of requirements past their qualifications. And you need to do it subtly so as not to make it sound like a job interview. We are not good with small talk. We are not good with randomly banging words back and forth with no real meaning. But we are excellent at analyzing systems and creating plans. We are darn good at following through on well laid out plans. Where we have trouble is that we fail to plan our social lives, and as my wife is fond of saying about weight loss, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Same thing here. When you seek to find friends, plan it and then do it. You know you can. You are an INTJ. If you enjoyed the video, please click like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'll see you next time.